Thank you so much for coming today. I know that it's kind of gray and dreary out, so I really appreciate you making the effort to come. And we have really great talks lined up for you today, so I'm thrilled that everyone could be here. The name of today's event is our CISLL Fall Show and Share. So every semester, every fall, and every spring, we really try to highlight some of the amazing language and literacy-based research that is going on here at campus. The plan for today is to welcome you. I have a few fun announcements to share, and then we'll roll right in to our 3 planned speakers for today, and then wrap up. Just as a background, CISLL is one of the research centers on campus, and we have to justify our existence on campus, and we do that through showing that we are engaged with the faculty and students on campus interested in language and literacy. So your attendance really helps. It goes into our reports, so it's used. I'm not going to spam you with it. It's more just to show that we do, in fact, get people to come to our events. So thank you very much. So welcome. So as a reminder, we are the Center for the Interdisciplinary Study of Language and Literacy. And so to reflect all the different disciplines, we do follow a co-directorship model. So my name is Allison Gladfelter. I am one of the co-directors here, and I come from the speech-language pathology program. And I love working alongside Lindsay Harris, who is in the psychology ed-psych program here at NIU. And then we have 3 deputy directors who are sort of spearheading each of our different special interest groups: Julia Ogg in psych, Mandy Ferreira-Studenberg in Spanish, and Melissa Klukas-Walter in Human Development and Family Sciences. And then we also have 2 graduate assistants, Megan and Henry, who both fantastically help us out. So this is a little overview of the 3 special interest groups that are reflected in CISLL. So diversity and language processing, second language learning and bilingualism, and language within disciplines and across the lifespan. Here are all of our events that we've hosted this fall, and we only have 2 more to go, so don't miss out on our 2 upcoming writing retreats. These are virtual meetings where we all log in together, announce what our planned writing goal is for the hour, and then we turn off our cameras and mics, and at the end of the hour we just check in and see, did you write what you said you would? So kind of an accountability to keep writing at the front of your mind, because I know that is easy to get pushed aside. I just wanted to share one of the other purposes of CISLL is to support research, and one of the ways we do that is through what we call our POP grants. So these are proposal or pilot grants, and we offer faculty and student versions, and we are thrilled that we have 1 faculty recipient, Kara Stick, this year, and we were able to fund 4 student projects. So we're thrilled to have more future show and shares, probably, from some of these awesome folks. So stay tuned for that. This brings me to our first speaker today, Ximena Burgin.
Thank you for coming to the presentation. I hope that you're going to find this information interesting. The title of my presentation is Embracing Diversity, Culturally Responsive Strategies and Social Emotional Learning Lessons from Ecuador's Classroom. I am with the ETRA department in the College of Education. Here is what I am planning to address today, which is the geographical and linguistic context, the importance of culturally responsive pedagogy in social emotional learning, the problem studied, research questions, methodological approach, and lessons learned from Ecuador's project. So before I start with the diversity in Ecuador, I would like to just share a fun fact. So Ecuador utilizes the American dollar. So when you go there, you don't have to exchange your currency. Regarding the diversity in Ecuador, as you can see, there is a very diverse country with 71.9% of mestizos. Mestizos are a mix of Amerindian and whites, but there are all the other groups like Montubios, Afro-Ecuadorians, mulattoes, black. So that brings a lot of diversity for the classroom. Regarding the language, 93% of the population speaks Castilian, and 4.1% of the population also speaks Quechua. Quechua is a language that is passed on. It's not a written language. And another important fact about the Quechua is that that is the language of commerce. So in 2008, when there was a change in the constitution, that I will shortly address that issue, Quechua was incorporated as a language of commerce. So even though Spanish or Castilian is the language of, the national language, but this group of peoples also can be conducting their commerce in this language. Additionally, we have, because I'm from Ecuador, so I'm sorry when I say we. Ecuador has between 13 and 21 languages, indigenous languages that need to be served in this very small country. So to add to the diversity of the country is about, I'm going to bring Venezuela, right? So Venezuela, with all the political issues that they had, about 7 to 8 million Venezuelans left the country. And when they left the country, they started migrating to the south. And it is about probably 500,000 Venezuelans that have stayed in Ecuador. So that means that this, about 8 million people have been distributed, Colombia, Peru, Chile, United States, and that has, again, increased the diversity that now our teachers have in the classroom. So now let's talk a little bit about the educational system, because this is kind of important, since you can see this. In 2006, I know I'm not going to address pre-2006 because there are a lot of changes in the educational system, but the important part of 2006 that I'm trying to bring in this conversation is that the Plan Decenal, or the 10-year educational plan, it is approved by Congress, where there are a lot of new initiatives to improve education. Specifically, they try to tie up the GDP of the country to the amount of money that each school, university were going to receive, with the ultimate goal of improving education. Then in 2007, there is this universal enrollment, which basically means all the students need to be enrolled in some type of institution. Before that, indigenous groups, usually the children, did not go to school. Forcing them to enroll, that means that those students were going to be in the school. Then in 2008, we have the new constitution that's being approved. Regarding the new constitution, now we have the rights for the ecosystem, the right for food. We have the climate change initiatives, but one of the most important ones is the revalorization of the teaching profession. With this initiative, so in 2009, there is a new assessment that is introduced in Ecuador. So now there is the revalorization of the teaching profession, but now they are going to be assessed. And there is several assessments that are introduced. So it's called ser profesor, ser maestro, ser bachiller. Basically means being a student, being bachiller means basically when you're graduating from high school and be a teacher, right? To see where the education, the progress that they are making. Regarding ser bachiller is very important because this test will indicate what type of profession the student will pursue and what institution they will go to. In other words, before this, if you decided to go to, I don't know, MIT, Harvard, NIU, that was your choice. Now, those choices are not there because it depends on the number of points. So if you want to be a doctor, you need certain points, and you will go to a specific institution. If you want to be an engineer, you have to have certain number of points and go to a specific institution. So the stakes started increasing for everybody, for teachers, parents, and students, and institutions as well. Then we have in 2012 the English language standards, which really aim to improve the curriculum, aiming to prepare students to a globalized world. What does basically this means is that English is the language of commerce, right? So Ecuador is also wanted to be part of engaging with the entire world, but for that, the students need to speak English proficiently. Then we have in 2013 the Tercer Estudio Regional Comparativo y Explicativo, which is a conjunction with the UNESCO. So this was an initiative with Latin America. All the countries came together to assess their education system. In 2016, it is renewed, the Plan Decenal, but the importance is that now the UNESCO has 8 goals, the 2030 goals, which they have been incorporated in this Plan Decenal. And finally, we have in 2024, they have a new mandate, which is to incorporate social emotional learning as part of the curriculum. So what is the problem that we have here? The problem is that they have these mandates, but the teachers are not preparing to teach English, and teachers are not prepared to incorporate social emotional learning in the classroom. The classroom is becoming more and more diverse. Now teachers need to bring or embrace their role in linguistically diverse classrooms. Because we have, so Latson, Billings, and Gay, that probably you are familiar, they are really well known in culturally responsive pedagogies. So we know that we need to have inclusive environments. So regarding inclusive environments, is really students are valued. They are going to have this feeling of belongingness and safety. So when the teacher adopts instructional strategies, the teacher can adapt their curriculum, their instruction, and they can learn really based on what they know. Encouraging student voices, because now students can reflect upon what they know and they can provide feedback. Learning becomes much easier because they are starting from something that they know instead of starting from something that they really don't know. And building strong home connections, because teachers are utilizing the capital that these families have, and they are bringing into the classroom to build the knowledge of the students. Now, regarding social emotional learning, this project utilizes the CISLL framework. As you can see, there are 5 competences: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So each of these competences are to develop specific skills within the students utilizing the classroom. So the competences were developed in such a way that as the students develop their skills, they can practice, in the classroom, they can go to the families, they can go to the communities and start implementing all these emotional skills. So we also know that social emotional skills is a process. It cannot happen overnight. So we cannot just expect to tell the teachers, go ahead and teach social emotional learning, right? So it has to be a process where they can start understanding what it means to be self-aware. So what it means to understand my own emotions and how my behavior impact others, or how my decisions about the relationships that I'm making, or in relationship to others, what is happening, what are the consequences of those attitudes. And then we have also that SEL helps with inequities, because as the students start thriving in the schools, they can contribute what they know to help others. So we are creating an environment where teaching and learning actually becomes natural, right? Because now we know that all of us, we can learn from each other. Regarding the benefits of SEL, so we know that there's teacher satisfaction, because, well, guess what? Now the classroom can be managed much easier, right? The students will be doing what they need to do, so that means that they will be succeeding academically. Then we have a student well-being, because now they feel good. They feel good for themselves, with their friends, being with each other, and the school environment is getting better, right? It's getting better for everybody. There are also benefits for culturally responsive pedagogy, because increased engagement, academic performance, student identity, improve social skills, critical thinking. Why? Because we are utilizing what the students actually already know, and we are building upon what they know, the new knowledge. So how was this done? 2 professional developments were conducted. One was for CRP and one was for social emotional learning. For the CRP, which I call it Study 1 and Study 2, all the information about the components and the understanding of CRP was given for the teachers, how to integrate cultural relevance into cultural curriculum and instruction, building culturally inclusive classroom environments, and teachers were given the opportunity to reflect upon all the information that they received. Regarding Study 2, this refers specifically about social emotional learning topics. What are the concepts, how to implement it, And we asked them to journal their experiences and what they were learning, and they were given assignments. Something that we learned very quickly is that social emotional learning, they did not have a lot of knowledge in this area. All the time they thought it was about these feelings, feeling good, being nice to the students. So we needed to create something with much more depth, so that they will be able to actually understand what it is and what it looks in the classroom. So that is why we needed to add assignments. Here are the research questions. So the research questions for study 1 is about the barriers for EFL educators that they see as a problem for them to implement CRP in the classroom. Now that they have identified these barriers, how they can eliminate them, or at least diminish them, right? Sometimes we cannot eliminate them. We just work around them. And for study 2, which is about SEL, is about how does teacher participation in this PD actually help them to understand the concepts. In other words, it's not only, yes, I know what SEL, but it's trying to move them from this idea of, if it's about feelings, it's about making it being happy, into, no, it's about really developing the competences for the students and how they are going to be assessed. And the how to be assessed, I think that is really critical, because not all teachers have an idea of how to do it. So that was problematic there. And what challenges do teachers identify when implementing SEL strategies in the classroom? So let's talk briefly about the methodology. This was conducted in a private school in an urban area in Ecuador. The participants for study 1 were 10 teachers, elementary school teachers, and for study 2 they were in-service teachers. In this particular case, it's K through 12 because of the new mandate, right? So that means that they need to be ready to implement SEL in 2 years. In this year, the country is doing the pilot study, which means that they don't have to implement it, but the next year they have to implement it, so they needed to know how they are going to do this. This is a qualitative case study and a thematic analysis utilizing the 6 steps from Brown and Clark was utilized for the data analysis. And for the data collections, we did focus group pre and post to see the teachers' perceptions. So before we move to what we found, or what regarding these studies, I would like to present how the top-down approach is in Ecuador, because this is going to play a lot of in the results. When Congress approves the new mandates, that goes to the Department of Education. The Department of Education moves it to the zones, the provincial educational zones. Ecuador is divided into 9 zones, but these zones are composed from several provinces. So the educational zones moves to the province educational offices, and the educational offices moves to the school districts. The school district moved to the leadership, and the leadership, we ended up with the teachers, the parents, and the students, right? So you may remember that we were talking a little bit earlier. So all this information that's coming top to bottom, guess what? The teachers are the ones that are going to be implementing, right? The parents may not realize that they are implementing it, but once they leave high school, now they have the issues because they need to pass this exam. And the students, well, are the ones taking the examinations. So let's talk about the lessons learned. So we have related to the school administrators, parents, educational systems, and also regarding the knowledge that the participants gain regarding SEL and CRP, and the challenges in the implementation of these 2 concepts. So regarding the school administrators, so I copy a few of the quotes from the data collection, where teachers are basically expressing, the lack of collaboration that they have with the leadership in the school. The problem that they see is that the solution of the academic problems or the academic issues that they have in the classroom, it is specifically for them to resolve. There's no solution coming, not any type of support coming from the administration. So teachers are like, well, if I already know that my principal is going to tell me that I have to solve it anyway, so what's the point even to going to talk to them, right? So I just try to get to solve it or diminish or minimize it so that I can move on with my class. Regarding the parents, parents are in the same problem, because parents do not think that it's their responsibility to help the teacher. They are saying, no, the moment that I come here, I leave my child here, and it's your responsibility to educate. Teachers, again, do not see the communication with parents as being constructive and helping to solve the academic issues as beneficial for the students. Or for that matter, they do not see even the administration coming to help them to negotiate with the parents how they are going to help with these academic issues. And then we have the educational system that does not have a flexibility. As I mentioned earlier, it's a top-down approach, which means that everything is given to the teachers. The curriculum is provided, the assessments are provided, the lessons plans are everything. So when they need to adjust, because it would be nice to say, well, I don't have to adjust it, right? I just implement it. The problem is that when we have such a diverse population in the classroom, tailoring instruction is a must, because you're going to have such a diverse group of students, and the ones that need a lot of help and the ones that can work by themselves. That flexibility is not in place. The other problem is that every classroom is supposed to be at the same place in the lesson at any given time. In other words, a student can move from a school A to a school B, and it's like nothing has happened because they continue. Again, when we have this, without accounting with this diversity in the classroom, well, it's very difficult to be able to help all the students to increase their academics. So regarding increasing the understanding of SEL and CRP, I think that really happened because teachers realized that what they didn't know, but also they realized the challenges of implementation, right? So the last two bullets cannot be separated. Because once they realize what CRP means and how they can use the backgrounds, the cultural backgrounds, the linguistic backgrounds of the students and their families, now the question is, what are the challenges that I have? How can I use that information if I have such a tight curriculum to implement? Even though they realize that there are challenges, they still were willing to start adjusting a little bit. So, for example, they started doing more about when there's vacation days or holidays and how they can bring the different cultures to be able to share. So what are the conclusions of these two studies? Is that teachers have the opportunity to reflect upon what do they want from the leadership and what do they want from parents. This reflection, it was quite interesting because at the beginning, a lot of complaints like, wait a minute, I am not doing, I cannot solve your problems, right? But as the conversation kept on moving forward, they realized that there are some things that they can do. And there are some things that they will have to discuss with parents and administration. And there are some things that won't be able to do anything about it. So they started taking more responsibility, these things I can do and I can change. And I can help my classroom and I can help the students. Teachers did not feel their voices were heard when solving academic issues. Well, if we have a top-down initiative where teachers are not included in the developing of these mandates, if teachers are not considered when the discussions about diverse curriculum and how to implement or how to use the curriculum for these indigenous groups that have been developed, it is very difficult. And one of the problems that the teachers indicate is like, the administrators don't come into my classroom. So how do they know what I'm facing day to day? They just hear the complaints from the students, from the parents, and us, but they are not really living in what is happening. And disempower, well, because it is very difficult when you have to do something where there's nothing that you can do about it, right? So by providing them the strategies of CRP and SEL, really help them to start gaining a little bit of empowerment in the classroom, to be able to manage the students, to manage the classroom, to manage the curriculum, to manage all what it means to be a teacher. The final point is about they do need professional development. They were very grateful for these two opportunities that they were part of, because they were given the time and the space to start thinking about what can be done and what it means for them. So, for example, regarding social emotional learning, they realized that, wait a minute, I can start using my classroom to be able to develop these competences. And the questions started, coming to change how they were presenting the problems. Instead of saying it's all about feelings and I want to make my students feel happy, to how can I make sure that they are listening to each other, that they are being respectful, that they collaborate, that they work well together. So as you can see, things have started changing, but that takes time. And as we know, the classroom is something that evolves with time. So professional development and really coaching would be something that they were looking to have more, considering that they will be implementing this like in 2 years. So the question was if leadership are required to have some type of certifications, and if this will help to bridge the gap. And I would say no, because sometimes these positions are just given to them. Sometimes some of the teachers, the assistant principal, for example, in this particular case, she was a teacher, but she has not been in the classroom for 30 years. So even though she does have a teaching degree, for example, social emotional learning was not something that she was familiar with. Cultural responsive pedagogies was something that she was not familiar with, because they are used to, why not? They should learn the Spanish. What is the problem? And everybody should do this way. When they don't realize that there are groups, for example, there is an indigenous group, in Otavalo. They, probably you have seen them in the fairs. They have a lot of clothing that they develop. So they are really good for commerce. So they are really good with math. But instead of utilizing that knowledge, they are trying to fit all these children into one way to do things, when they already have the knowledge of the business, right? Addition and profits and all those things. So the question is always, how can you bring and utilize that knowledge and really share with others, right? Because they already have done it, and help to communicate and really collaborate well with others.
Great, thank you.